All right, welcome to Athlete's Pursuit for another episode. Today, I'm joined by Austin Current. He is a coach, author, educator, and former competitive bodybuilder. Austin has dedicated his career to helping people train smarter, cutting through the noise to focus on what truly matters. So he's worked with athletes, general population clients, and coaches. And his book, The Science of Strength Training, simplifies complex principles to make fitness more accessible. So in this episode today, we're going to dive into his journey from bodybuilding to a more sustainable approach, the lessons he's learned, and how we can all tailor our training to fit our lives. Austin, welcome to the show, man.
Appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. This is the conversation I've been wanting to have. I'm going to start with the question that we all want answered. What's your bench press? What's your deadlift? What's the 1 rep max?
Dude, I saw, so on the outline for this conversation,
yeah,
I saw icebreaker. And let me tell you, my freshman year of college, I hate icebreakers. And so my freshman year of college, I went to orientation. I went to Ball State University in Northern Indiana.
Oh, nice, man. Yeah.
And I showed up to orientation. We started with an icebreaker, and I kid you not, I said, I'll see you guys at lunch. I'm not doing this. Like, I Irish goodbyed that entire first day of orientation, like the first half of that first day of orientation, because I was like, I see where this is going. I'm not standing in a circle and holding hands with these people I just met and telling them my deepest secrets. I just want to get through this. And that was the worst way you could have like started orientation for me, because I was already nervous about going to college. And because ironically, I like didn't quite actually get into the school first go. So there's a lot of history there, but I was already uncomfortable. And then they made me do the thing I was most uncomfortable to do. And I was just like, nope, I'll see you guys at lunch. And I literally walked out. And I met back. I did go back at lunch, and I needed to get past that first like awkward morning. And if that doesn't tell you everything you need to know about my personality, I don't know what does. So
like, let's just get to the business, please.
Yeah, it was just, dude, I don't know. It's just, there's something about icebreakers that I'm just like, can we just not do that? You know,
it's never been my favorite thing either, man. The yeah. give me one interesting fact about you, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like, I was born with an extra toe. Like, do we have to talk about this again? This is weird for all of us.
It's like I've been in therapy for 20 years about this, man. I don't want to bring it up.
Yeah. We resolved. Let's move on.
So anyways, I thought that was hilarious, because I saw that and I'm like, dude, I hope he does not actually make me do an icebreaker, because I will walk out of this conversation. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad I didn't do that. I'm glad we started with bench press. I was just like, you know what? Let's just lean into the broisms for as long as we can.
I just thought that was a funny story to bring up, because I was just, dude, it was just one of those visceral moments where you're just like, wow, this is the worst place you could have started with me. You know, it's just like, there's so many things I would talk about, but an icebreaker, nah.
Dude, good to know.
Yeah.
Also, Ball State. I don't know if a lot of people know about Ball State, but that was on my list of colleges, dude. I grew up in the Midwest, Chicago, and I was looking at Ball State. Okay. It was like Marquette, Ball State, Indiana is where I ultimately went to, IU, but I had a good buddy of mine go to Ball State too. That's where David Letterman went, right?
Oh yeah. Dude, David Letterman's, and I embodied this as a student in general, but more so in high school than I did in college. I actually did quite well in college, but Letterman actually has his own building there, and you know, he's a big donor to the school. But Letterman has it's called the Letterman. I don't know if they still have it, but I would imagine they do. But it's called the Letterman Scholarship, and it's only for C average students.
Interesting.
It's only for average average students who don't get that good of grades, who are kind of just scooting by, who are maybe not that, you're trying to kind of get their footing in school. But it's I believe it's essentially for like C average students, because he was not a good student. And so he has a scholarship for C average students at Ball State, which I think is like I think coming from like the world of being a successful comedian for him and kind of breaking through as he did, I think it's just sort of a nod to, hey, this isn't that serious. Just get through this, make the most of it, and then move on with your life. Go pursue the things that actually matter to you, because so much of school does not matter. And I think you learn that as you go through it. But, anyways, I thought that was great. But no, man, I grew up in Southern Indiana. And so a lot of my family went to IU, and then my grandfather was a college football coach at Ball State, or I was a football assistant head at Ball State.
Oh, dang.
And so when I was like growing up, and so I grew up there, like in and out of the locker room, and we're always there for game days, and we travel. So I, finding myself in all the Mac cities, right? Like Akron and Toledo and Buffalo and all these, Miami of Ohio. It's just like
Marshall. Is Marshall in there?
Marshall was in the MAC. Now they're in Conference USA.
Okay.
But that's actually the coldest game I've ever been to in my life. We went to Marshall, and it was a snowstorm. That's when Byron Leftwich was there.
I was just about to ask. Hell yeah.
Oh man. So
Epic.
Leftwich, I think he had like 700 passing yards with a broken ankle. Like Ball State got tortured in that game. It was not a good game, but
it's so iconic, man.
Yeah. Oh, it was unbelievable to see him play and just absolutely murder the secondary, so, but it was also freezing. We took like 50, we'd watch the game in like 20-minute intervals, and you'd have to go to the bathroom to thaw out.
No way.
And then come back. Oh, it was freezing.
Wow.
Yeah. But anyways, that's a lot of that's basically my whole childhood right there. So, we kind of encapsulated it.
Man, that's beautiful, man. Yeah, Midwest life, buddy. My wife gives me a hard time for it. She's never been to the Midwest. She thinks like Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're all the same thing. She's like, I don't even know where Iowa is. It's just
that's basically Canada. We start to learn, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, they're Canadian. People, Chicago, I'll give you credit. Like, you are a part of the Midwest, but you're also borderline Canadian. And Iowa is its own country.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Illinois, Indiana, Ohio basically are the same state. And Kentucky, somehow, the Ohio River did something to them. My wife's from Kentucky, so
that's where my brother went to school, is UK.
Okay. Yeah. My wife grew up in Kentucky, so I give her as much, crap as I can. So I don't know what happened to them in the Ohio River, but they're their own people down there.
It's the Commonwealth, man.
Yeah, very lovely, but they're their own breed.
Yeah, they are, man. They are. Lexington was always fun to visit, though. Like Chris, my brother was there. He was actually on the cheerleading team, so he was there during like the Calipari, John Wall era when they were making those runs, dude.
What a time.
That was cool. Yeah, absolute blast of a time.
Yeah, what a time to be there, man. Yeah, that is definitely one of the eras you'd want to be there in.
Yeah. Seeing that stadium rumble, man. Yeah. Nothing like it. I'm trying to get IU back there, man. We're not even close with basketball right now.
No.
Football, though.
No, dude, out of nowhere. I don't get it. I thought it was a fluke most of the season. So it was funny to hear also my grandfather, he coached back. He was at IU in the 80s with Lee Corso. And it was funny to have conversations with him about it, because I'm like, dude, what's going on here? And he's like, I don't know. He goes, we were terrible, so I don't really know what to tell. I don't know what's happening. We've never been good. Like, this is the peak pinnacle of IU football, and probably forever. So he's just kind of like, hold on and enjoy it, because it's probably not going to stick around too long, but hopefully it does. I'm obviously rooting for him, but
it's possible. They kept him. We got some more the transfer portal changed the entire game for everybody.
Oh, the NIL and transfer portal just completely changed college sports in such an interesting way. But it's such an interesting conversation to have at a different time, I'm sure. But it's changed the game.
I digress, but
yeah,
I'm gonna take some of these IU wins as long as I can get them.
I'll take them.
Dude, let's talk about your road to bodybuilding, man. I've seen the physique pictures, dude, because when we were talking before this show briefly, that's how I found Austin. I was transitioning my training style. Like I was before this at Tone House, and that was a lot of like football, strength and conditioning, big compound lifts. So when I was moving to tonal and also just getting older, man, I was trying to just change how I approach training a little bit. So I was moving more towards hypertrophy and learning more about this. So our friend Josh Clay recommended that I follow you for advice in this area, said that you were just an absolute mastermind at it, a lot of experience in it. And your physique, I mean, you got in insane shape with that, but I'm curious how you got into it and some of the takeaways, the things you learned, good and bad.
Yeah. So I got talked into it by a friend. And again, as the conversation started with, I don't like icebreakers. I really don't like being uncomfortable, and I really shy away from it, and so when I got talked into bodybuilding, my only concern was I'm going to have to be on a stage. I've seen YouTube videos of this. I don't want to do it. But thankfully I did it. Thankfully I confronted that fear and confronted and really learned how to sort of endure with that being uncomfortable there, and I think that's probably one of the biggest takeaways for me, among others that I'll kind of touch on. But originally I did get talked into it. I was 19 at the time. Sports ended for me. It's kind of the same story that a lot of us have, not all of us, but a lot of us have this story of kind of sports being maybe taken away from us sooner than we thought, in our life up to that point isn't actually going the way we wanted it to or thought it would, in terms of sports. And so, through injury and what have you, injury and circumstance just didn't have that in the cards for me beyond high school. And so with bodybuilding, I was already into lifting. I had never, I kind of have a different route into it in terms of, I didn't grow up reading muscle magazines. I didn't grow up reading or looking or knowing anything about bodybuilding. I didn't care for it. I didn't even know about the sport itself, to be honest. And all I knew was strength conditioning. I knew sports performance. I came from that background. I grew up around sports, as we kind of mentioned there in the beginning. And that's all I knew, and the only conversations I'd had at a young age with adults about lifting was usually whoever was the strength conditioning coach at the university that I was spending, my grandfather was coaching at. So it's like, I'd go hang out, joke around with them because they, were usually on a break when I was there, or, the players were at practice, so they were hanging around or whatever they were doing. And so I could joke around with them. They'd hang out with me. They were super cool.
That's awesome.
And that was me being around lifting, was really just kind of being in and out of the strength conditioning room. And, obviously through sports, I was introduced to that, but, I started lifting in general around 11 or 12. So I got into it early. I kind of caught the bug early. I really, really enjoyed it. I found myself, it was never like, hey, you need to lift in my family. It was just like, hey, pursue the things you enjoy. If you like lifting, we'll get you a dumbbell set. We'll get you and your brother a membership to the YMCA. We'll drop you off, pick you up in a couple of hours. You guys have fun. So we'd lift, we'd shoot baskets. My brother would teach me how to do certain things. I was very fortunate to have a good educator and strength conditioning coach when I was growing up, when I was very young. He influenced me heavily and really gave me a lot in terms of the technique of things. He was big into, he was very overqualified, CSCS, US Olympic weightlifting certifications, master's degree, like very overqualified in terms of being a high school strength conditioning coach.
Yeah, that's huge.
Usually you're just kind of stuck with the head coach who bangs his head into a brick wall and screams when you squat. So
yeah.
I was very, very fortunate. I was very fortunate. I mean, he was there too, but I was very fortunate to have someone that could also like, hey, maybe we shouldn't run these guys till they absolutely puke and they tear their ACLs. Like maybe we should have some strategy,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What a concept. Yeah. And so, I was given a really good movement education when I was young. and I wasn't thrown into it out of pressure. I just found it via exploration and having fun with it. And, you know, before bed, my routine was to do as many push-ups as I could and drink
At
a
12
big
years
glass
old?
of milk. Yeah. Yeah. I would do as many
Monster.
push-ups as I could. I had the perfect push-ups. And
Oh yeah, I remember those. Yeah.
yeah, I would
Yeah,
do
a
as
little
many
swivel.
as seen on
Yeah,
TV. Yeah. Yep.
absolutely.
Great swivel. And I would do as many push-ups as I could from, you know, flat ground, incline. I'd put them in different, you know, as many positions as I could. I'd put them narrow, I'd put them wide. Uh, and then I'd drink a big glass of milk and go to bed. And that was me. Like, I'm doing this. I don't know why I was doing it. I was just like, I want to do this for me. You know, I don't, there was no pressure, you know, it wasn't like anyone was forcing me to do that stuff.
Which is great. I got to tell you, a sign of the times is you chugging a glass of milk.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah,
Chocolate milk.
dude, I did
That's
it
when
too.
the big like chocolate milk article came out. You know, I don't
Yeah.
even know I don't know if that was like a T Nation article or what that was, but that was around. I remember we had that hung up when you left our weight room. There was like an article about like chocolate milk, that like drink your chocolate milk, eat your peanut butter and
Yeah,
jelly
the nice little
sandwich.
mustache.
Oh dude.
Oh yeah.
It was the government propaganda of big dairy, but
It was.
you know, honestly, it gave us gains, so I'll take it. Um, I'm not complaining there. But anyways, that got me into lifting. I got into lifting very early, again, in a very under pressure situation, and then I got more into it as sports, you know, really ramped up and became more a part of my life there. And uh, you know, physical expression's always been a big thing for me, and exploring that
Mm.
over any sort of intellectual pursuits. Those came much later.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, those came much later, like university later.
So
It
are
wasn't
we
really till
talking
then.
just meathead lane? You're just like, let me
It
lift
was
as much
like,
as possible.
well, if it wasn't for like, if it wasn't about sports or moving around, I was not interested. I didn't care. You know, I got through school, whatever. I never stood out as far as like my academic abilities. You know, I could read, I could write. I showed up to school. Just get me through this day so I can go to practice and like do the thing I'm good at. That's all I cared about. I was very insecure about everything else. And so, you know, I again, to denote where we started, is like, I don't like being uncomfortable. And so facing that discomfort really came, it was really challenging for me when it came to intellectual and academic pursuits. And so that's, you know, it didn't come until much later, until I was absolutely forced into having to care about it, because the thing I was most comfortable with was sports. That got taken away. Now I'm faced with the rest of my life. And the only thing that's going to get me to where I at least hope to be, not homeless, is you got to use your brain, dude. You got to figure out how to learn. You got to figure out how to do this stuff, because uh, the sports aren't there anymore, you know, and pick up basketball ain't going to get you anywhere. So you're going to have to figure this out, because this is the way life goes. Welcome to being an adult. And, you know, it was a very confronting time there. And that's what kind of got me into the bodybuilding thing, you know. And I remember my freshman year, actually. So it wasn't until my sophomore year that I picked up bodybuilding. But my freshman year of school, I remember I was lifting. I would just lift, pick up basketball, pick up basketball. That was like my daily ritual, daily routine. And I remember they were having it's funny to look back on this, but they were having a college physique show at Ball State. And I remember the guy that was like one of the organizers was kind of hanging around. They were trying to get people to come do the show. They're like, hey man, we need people to come show up. We need competitors. And so there was this guy that would just walk around, and he asked me a couple times. He's like, hey man, you're in pretty good shape. Like, have you ever thought about this? You ever heard about bodybuilding? And this is kind of when the physique bodybuilding kind of first started up, and, you know, the early days of the male model search, men's physique category coming out, early Steve Cook era, Soldier Nation, you name it. And that's really that was a big thing for me, getting into it and learning about it. But I originally he asked me that, and I was like, dude, what? No. I was like, no, I'm not interested. Thank you. And I put my headphones back in and just kept lifting. And then it wasn't until my sophomore year where a friend of mine who had been competing for years and had been successful at it, and she was like, "Hey, you seem kind of meandering around the weight room here. You seem kind of lost, and I think this could be good for you. There's a show in 6 weeks. I'm gonna do it, or I'm gonna be there. I'm going to the show. I can, give you a ride. I can, I'll help you prep, like whatever you need. But I really think you should try this thing out." And I was like, "Fine, I'll just try it." And so I prepped for 6 weeks, and I ended up winning that show.
That's it.
And yeah,
6 weeks.
Well, I was already in pretty good shape.
Yeah,
I was already pretty obsessed with
shape.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was already pretty obsessed with it. And so, I was already training a lot, but that was the first time I'd really actually trained for physique. That was the first time I'd actually started to body build, per se, more of a structural sense of my workouts and doing more hypertrophy based stuff. And so, I fell into it. I did it at the right time too. You're 19, testosterone's pumping.
Yep.
You're going through puberty. Like I really got into it at the perfect time physically as well. Genetically, I was kind of set up for it. And so that got me into it. And then I had some early success, and I kind of stuck with it. So, but facing that discomfort was a big part of that early journey within bodybuilding. And really, I remember the first, and I'll shut up after this, but the first time after that first show, the next thing outside of like facing that discomfort, the next thing that popped up for me, that was like a clear aha moment, like this eureka moment, was this pure sense of cause and effect. I was like, oh, that makes sense. Like I busted my ass for 6 weeks. Like that was not an easy 6 weeks. I really dieted down. I tracked macros. I dieted down. Everything to a T, did everything I needed to do.
Yeah.
Dedicated that full 6 weeks to that. And it was really that, I'd never been that ripped or shredded before. I'd always been muscular, but never like veins in the abs, absolutely shredded. And I was like, what is this? I was like, this is wild that I have this much control over this. And this is insane that I can do this, and in a matter of 6 weeks, I can look like this now. Like, that was such a far out concept for me. And that sense of control I loved, because elsewhere in my life, I didn't feel like I had much control. And I was very unsure about a lot of things I was doing and in situations I was in. And bodybuilding kind of saved the day for me in that way. I got out of a group of friends that were into drugs and getting in trouble, and I stopped hanging out with them, and I started to lift more. I started to lift more. I started replacing hanging out with friends with track workouts, and it just became this safe space and the safe haven of, I know this is good for me, and instead of buying a new pair of shoes, I would buy self-help books and audiobooks to listen to when I did my sprints and my lifts. Like my whole world became this, like, what is this? Because I'd never tapped into that before. I didn't know what that was. It was all very, very new. And so, I mean, I'll stop there and kind of let you navigate. But that was kind of the biggest things once I got into bodybuilding. That's what stuck out the most as far as the takeaways.
Well, I think that's a pretty common story for a lot of people. I relate to that, right? The sense of control, I think, is a big thing, because the world can be chaotic. I still rely on that today. Like, it's such a consistent part of the week that no matter what is happening in the world around you, your life, at least that this is something that is in your power, and it gives you like an anchor point throughout your day, your week, your year, and you can keep growing and building. So it can be therapeutic in that way. What did you dive into? I'm curious, with the book, for the self-help journey. Like, where did you start building that mental toughness? And
we're talking like Les Brown. We're talking like early Grant Cardone. I think 10X, his 10X rule book just came out at that time. And so, like going back and listening to it now, it's like, I don't relate to any of that anymore. But as a 19-year-old kid, I needed every part of that. I needed Les Brown. Like, I needed this big, powerful dude talking about being your best self and screw these people trying to pull you down, and like, go do your thing, go find you, go be you. and, you know, hearing like just how to be better from these guys. You know, you don't really understand, like, you don't know what you don't know, right? So when you start to hear things and start to realize that you have this control, you have this sense of agency, you have this sense of, I can make this for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I just felt like I was, for most of my life, especially up to that point, I really kind of felt like uh, I was in a game of pinball. Like I was just kind of being pattered around and put into situations and just sort of reacting and responding to the situations I was in. And I had a great childhood. I had great parents and very, very supported. And so nothing on them. It was just like, it's just the way that I felt, you know, and that was the first time like hearing people like that. You know, there was a couple others I can't remember the name of, but those were the big ones that sort of stand out early on. And just that sense of control and that sense of agency of, you can be better here and it's your choice to do so.
Mm-hmm.
Take full ownership, take full self-responsibility for yourself and your actions. And if something's not changing for you, that's on you, no one else.
Yeah.
And again, as a 19-year-old, like that's massive.
Yeah, it's huge
for you, you know? And that coupled with like seeing these results in bodybuilding, starting to get a following online, like getting messages from people like I'm an inspiration for them. And I'm like, what is happening? Like, I don't know what this is. I've never had this before. All that I know is that it feels good to be recognized just for hard work. And putting one foot in front of the other and choosing to do the hard thing rather than like, oh, because at that time, again, like you're just, you know, you're surrounded by, you're young, you know, you got friends who was like, hey man, let's just go smoke a joint. Hey, let's go get drunk. Let's get hammered. Like, oh, it's Friday.
Yep.
And again, like I had that portion of my childhood, sure, but it was always that thing of like, I guess like I have nothing else to do. Like, let's just do this. And as soon as I had something else to do that I could really latch onto, which was the bodybuilding thing and like the self-help world of those worlds combining for me all at once,
Mm-hmm.
I just like I couldn't unsee it. I just couldn't unsee it. And so everything from then on out was really just this equation of what is in there. Like, what is untapped? What can I go find? What can I go discover? What can I go explore about myself? And how the only way I knew how to do that was through the physical, really, at that point. And so I knew how to push myself. So, and I had the physical on my side, you know, as far as the genetics and the ability to work hard and the, you know, an entire life up to that point of sports, of all kinds of sports, baseball, football, basketball, you name it. I played it. And so you kind of use the fuel you have, right? And so that was the fuel that I had.
That's a big point. That's a big point. I think it's huge for development when you're a kid. I relate to what you're saying very heavily. Like I'm also pretty relate to just the physical aspect. Like I've played sports my entire life. I think what you're talking about is just this for human development, I think in general, but especially like as a man having sports to provide you structure and a place to work on yourself and progress yourself is just such a healthy foundation. And I don't know what I would have done or who I would be without that, because it does teach you those things of what discipline means, what consistency means, what accountability means. Like these are massive things. They're small when you hear them, but how you apply them in your life is it changes your entire life. And if you didn't, that was a big thing for me too, Austin. Like when I graduated college, I was going into the business world and finance, and it's so opposite of anything physical. And so I noticed that I was struggling because now I'm in front of a computer and it's just not in my DNA. Like it's just not my natural place to be. Like I need to be moving. I need to be like, my dad was a contractor. He was always up and working with his hands and moving around. And I always felt my best when I was putting my energy into something and felt like I was improving. So maybe some of this is knowing yourself, but I love that tapping into that and giving yourself this structure away from sports. That's what the gym can do. It can scratch that itch where you're still constantly improving. You're still putting that energy into something physical to grow. And then it can lead to the mental improvement, the human development. Like you said, tapping into Les Brown and then like I had a similar story of a friend took me to a Tony Robbins conference, like back in the day, you know? And to your point, I'm like looking back on this stuff now, I don't know if I relate to it as heavy, but it was a starting point. It got me asking myself questions of like, how do I talk to myself? What mental blocks am I putting in front of me? Why am I scared of certain things? And that's stopping me from achieving like what I really want to pursue? Or am I giving myself permission to pursue goals that I have? And I'm curious now, like with that journey, you mentioned like you weren't a huge fan of feeling uncomfortable, which, is, maybe the human condition a little bit too. But I'm curious if that relationship to being uncomfortable evolved for you or started to change, if you started to see it differently.
Again, sort of that cause and effect I started to really notice. And again, like as I got more into my career, as I started to, because also around this time, again, very, not a guy who really put himself out there very much. And so I just kind of rode the wave, stuck to kept to myself, and didn't really make much noise outside of like, as soon as the whistle blew, game start.
Yeah.
I'm in. This is me. Let's go.
Yeah.
But as soon as that game was over, back to the same old, like, no, I'm okay. I'll just hang out at home and I'll see you later and I'll see you at practice.
Just
and
a chill guy.
Yeah. Just like kind of leave me alone. Don't ask me to put myself out there too much. Don't ask me to do icebreakers. And so as far as tapping into that, I think I really just understood or started to more understand the cause and effect and this opportunity that started to really come up and things that started to change. Right. And so around this time where I started to bodybuild, around 19, 20 years old, and all that kind of progressed really quickly for me. So I started bodybuilding when I was 19. I ended up turning professional when I was 20. And all this really accelerated really quick for me. And throughout this time as well, I was creating YouTube content. I was creating, I was going over workouts. I was like, if we want to build our delts, this is what we're doing. And, I'm a young kid on YouTube and I'm just trying to spread and share my experience with it. And I was, I looked up to others doing the same thing. And I was like, well, they're building this online business via YouTube. Can I do that? Like, that seems pretty cool. And so I just started to kind of like put myself out there. And I think I started to attach that more to, because as you do, like when you put yourself out there, it made me very uncomfortable, but it really makes other people uncomfortable. And usually when other people are uncomfortable, they start to poke fun at what you're doing. And I don't know what that is. That's above my pay grade. But one thing that I found was, as I'm being made fun of for putting myself on YouTube, as I'm being made fun of for like, oh, you're just kind of putting your workouts on YouTube. What a loser. Like,
I see. Early
dude,
days.
just like,
yeah,
it's just kind of like, and then ironically, right, those are the same people that come back 2 or 3 years later. They're the people reaching out and they're like, hey man, I'm kind of falling off, gained like 40 pounds. Like, I kind of remember, like, I know you're into lifting and I know you kind of were doing the YouTube thing for a while. Are you still coaching, or can you help me out? And it was just like, and it was never like, oh, I gotcha. It was just like, of course, like I'm here. This is my job. This is what I've dedicated my adult life to up to this point. And I've just stuck with it. But it really taught me that cause and effect relationship and this opportunity that happens through serendipity of putting yourself out there. And throughout my career, when things feel like they're at a stalemate and just stagnant, it always translates to, you're not putting yourself out there enough. You're not creating enough. You're not putting yourself out into the world enough, whether that's doing podcasts, whether that's creating content, whether that's, putting out certain products or certain whatever, right? It's just, you're not putting yourself out there. And when you put yourself out there, again, like putting myself, like the fact that I was writing articles and making YouTube videos and putting certain types of content on Instagram was the reason I got the opportunity to write my book. Like, it wasn't because I'm this big known household name in fitness necessarily. Like, it really was the sheer fact of like, I was scratching an itch of something that a publisher wanted to be produced. And they're like, oh, this guy's been creating this type of content for years. He's built a following off of that. Well, let's just ask him to do the book. Like, that seems like he seems to kind of have that market. He seems to know how to talk to that audience.
Yeah.
And that all came through just putting myself out into the world. And again, like, I'm not comfortable, and I'm a lot more comfortable on camera now, but man, like, going back and watching my early YouTube videos, like, it is the most cringeworthy thing I could do with my time. Like, it is so uncomfortable to go back and watch this, you know?
Yeah. Growth, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, putting myself out there, that was a big part of that. And really being able to really see that cause and effect of what happens when you face that discomfort. And it's understanding that you're going to have to face it sometime.
Yeah.
And the sooner you do it, the easier it's going to be, the more you're going to be in control of it. And the more you're going to be able to navigate it and guide that ship in the direction you may want it to go in, versus someone else guiding your ship for you. So,
Yeah.
you know, I think being able to like really start to see that happen and see the patterns there really kind of opened my world up. And I still have to like force myself to do it, but I understand that there's a lot more benefit to it than not doing it.
I completely agree, man. I think it's a big lesson. I too struggle with that. There is that feeling that I start to get of when you start doing something new. Honestly, for me, this podcast, man, this was something new too.
Mm-hmm.
And even being a tonal coach, like getting used to being on camera all the time, because I'm coaching, you know, and I'm talking to people, but I was always like, I like intimate conversations, one-on-one.
Yeah.
I want to get to know you. I used to battle with, well, putting too much out there maybe was inauthentic. But that's kind of the point, that feeling that you have of, I want to grow, I want to do something more. If you don't push past that, you can't have growth. Like, I don't know what growth is without being uncomfortable. I think the relationship has to exist together.
I would agree.
I started to like do a trick where I would just map out some things that I wanted to do, like, you know, call it like a vision, some goals that you have for yourself of like, I want to see myself here in the future. I want to grow into this type of person, and mapping out maybe some activities that I would like to do. And I start putting myself into these positions that I can't back out of. So I just like schedule shit. And then I look back and I'm like, oh, I don't want to fucking do this. But it's like, it's on the books. I got somebody else committed, and you just do it anyways. And I've just gotten more comfortable, I think, with that feeling of do it anyways, do it uncomfortable, do it nervous, do it even if, you know, battling imposter syndrome, like all these different things, like just do it anyways. There's something good that's going to come from it, man.
And you figure out that no one really knows what they're doing. And those that feel like, that swear they do, don't, right? It's just, again, it's sort of them telling themselves that they do.
Yeah.
But no one really knows what they're doing. It's just, some of us have done it more often, and you're just like, well, this is kind of just how it goes. You get more used to that part of it. And I may have a few more answers than you have right now, but that's really the only difference here. Or I've spent more time around it, but that's really it. Yeah.
It's like I've been in this a little bit longer to develop a sense of comfort in this new space, right?
But that's really the only difference.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes I always tell the story. Sometimes like they're like, oh man, you seem so natural on camera. I'm like, now,
dude.
Good Lord. Like, I can tell you some auditions that I had back in the day where I choked, man. Like,
it's so uncomfortable.
Oh, it's such a bad feeling, bro.
Yeah. But I respect comedians so much. Comedians and musicians.
Stand-ups.
Musicians and comedians are two professions and two types of people that I admire, I look up to, and I think it's always a good thing. I always like try to put myself in their shoes, and seeing how long, you know, obviously with the internet, this trajectory for both musicians and stand-ups, we can just stick with one, you know, but how long these guys have to truly just be at it and fail and bomb and fail and be uncomfortable and face that day in and day out.
Yeah.
But the ones that stick with it are the ones that are there now. They're the ones we know. They're the ones that we laugh at, and the ones we see on podcasts and we see on these Netflix specials. And there's just they're not any different, right? And they'll be the first ones to tell you, like, I'm not that smart. I'm not that innovative. I'm not that whatever. It's just I just stuck with it because I didn't know what else to do. And I think that's kind of what we're all doing. And I think once you give your just, and this again, this is a constant reminder. I think advice we give is really the advice we need to hear first and foremost. So everything I'm saying, I still need to hear myself.
Yeah, I agree.
On a daily basis. But it's once you figure out what that thing is going to be for you, just pursue the hell out of it. Just go for it, dude. Because what else are you doing? What else are you doing? And what are you going to restart at something else? You haven't decided that you even want to do, like, what do you do? What are you doing here?
Yeah.
Just go for it. And as soon as you figure that out, I think things start to click at least to the sense of, well, I know at least what direction I need to go in here. Like, okay, if this is my route, where do I need to improve? Okay, what's the next step? What's the first next step to this that I can improve upon? All right, start improving on that. Put yourself out there more. Great, start doing that. And just give your whole self to whatever you've chosen to do, and just stick with it. Because that's even like within the training realm, right? Personal trainers that we all look up to, our coaches we all look up to, our educators we all look up to. Those who have kind of stuck around and become like the legends of the industry, again, they're just normal people who have just stuck with it and decided to give their whole self to the thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. Like, again, I've been very fortunate to work for some of these people, to work alongside some of these people, to be around some of these people. And that's really it. Like, obviously there's some really brilliant people, don't get me wrong.
For sure.
But really, it's just, they stuck with it for a long time. They kept making relationships. They kept following up. They kept going down these roads. They got asked to do something. They did it. It went well. Maybe it didn't, but it connected to them someone else. They kept at that. And before you know it, we're referencing them in this conversation of like, oh, they're a legend.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, nothing special happened there other than just continuing to do the thing over and over.
Yeah. You can't have the brilliance without the consistency.
Mm.
And I'm like, these tactics and strategies that we talk about in training, because it's just like a microcosm for everything else that you're learning. Like any type of skill development, that's why I like training. It really is just a metaphor. It teaches you how to like do these skill refinements, and anything else that you're doing is putting yourself in the right situation and just having a refinement process. It's like this, it's a longer term perspective of just, so maybe for the first year, I'm not great. Maybe for the second, I'm not great, but you stay to your point in the fight and you just continuously learn, adapt, and evolve. You know, something I told myself when I was getting into this, I was a really, really skinny kid when I was getting into like training, man, because I had a totally different life. I was like doing sales, I'm in finance, like all of this stuff, and moving into this world, figuring out that I just love this so much. I remember just telling myself a simple thing of, I don't have all the knowledge yet. I don't know all the techniques yet. I need to put myself in an environment that allows me to immerse myself to just learn this shit. So that's finding the right gym, finding the right community, finding your place where you are just surrounded on all sides by the right people. You pick it up. You know, I'm like, how could you not? Like if I'm in a room, if I'm just like when you were growing up in a strength and conditioning class or session with your, you know, with your family and being around football player, how can you not pick something up from that environment just by being in it, man?
You're just hanging around, man.
Yeah. You're going to learn.
Yeah.
You're going to learn how they walk, how they talk, how they structure, right? Like all of this. It's like, it's more than just a set or rep. It's more than just here's a funny line. I'm like, I want to know the ins and outs of how people embody this shit.
Yeah. I think it's allowing yourself to be a beginner in anything. And I think that, you know, as we sort of maybe progress the conversation, it's to be a beginner in anything, I think is important. And again, facing that discomfort. And, you know, as I branched out my own fitness in recent years, getting out of the bodybuilding, you know, because I don't compete professionally anymore. I haven't for a long time, since 2016 was my last professional show, right? So it's been a long time, especially relative to like how much time I actually was spent bodybuilding. Like I've spent more time out of it than in it, right?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And so, I've coached it and I've been around it still, but to the same vein, like I have not been in that world personally for a long time, but I was holding on to it, and I wasn't allowing myself to adapt. And I was trying to, again, force myself into this. Well, if I'm not doing this, then I'm not X, Y, and Z, fill in the gaps of insecurity. I don't know. And I'm still trying to unpack some of that stuff. But I think as soon as you sort of break down barriers and allow yourself, I think I was also nervous to be a beginner, right? Because you when you become known for maybe your when you become known for your physique or your ability to talk about a certain subject, it's really, again, someone who does not like discomfort, it's really uncomfortable to branch out and become a beginner again, right? Like picking up running and picking up swimming and
Yeah.
right. Like I have those. It's definitely made me a lot more empathetic as a coach because, like when I'm swimming laps and I'm next to someone you could tell swam in college, you walk in, you see their college backpack and you see them doing all their drills. They have all this random equipment you don't even know exists, and I'm just like, I bought a pair of goggles off Amazon. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And, I'm swimming in like the shorts I work out in, so I don't really understand what I'm doing here. And I'm thinking like, this is literally this is like in the past few months. Like I'm in the pool swimming laps, and my self-talk in the pool when I'm swimming laps is just like, I look like an idiot. This person next to me they're really good, man. Like, I wonder what, are they thinking about what I'm doing? Like, are they making fun of me? And it's like, one, no, because when you walk into a gym, like when we walk into a gym, that's not what we're doing to other people. We're just like, dude, Nux, you're in here, soaked. I'm here if you need help. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. I'm happy you're here. Keep working. You're doing great.
Yep.
That's what we're thinking. And so that's all that other person is thinking, and if they aren't, then who cares? I'm just going to at least think they are, because that's what's helpful for me. But to be uncomfortable and to be a beginner again, I think is a very, very important thing to go through as an adult. I think it makes you more compassionate. I think it makes you more empathetic to other people, especially if you're a coach, especially if you're a personal trainer, especially if you work with other people in a service-based industry. Like, you have to put yourself in that situation again. You have to get yourself out of your comfort zones and feel what it feels like to be new into something again, and to be uncomfortable with something and to not know, right? Like I'm trying to learn what shoes I should run in. Like, again, you put me in a gym, that's the most comfortable place I could be in my life at this point. Like, you put me in a gym setting, ask me any question. I may not know the exact answer, but I can contextually get us there, figure out what needs to happen. You point out a piece of equipment, you point out an attachment. I know exactly what it does, or I know generally what it could do and how I would use it to get to the goal. You take me out of that, I'm fish out of water, man. Like, you point to two pairs of running shoes, no clue what the difference is here. Why does one have a steel plate? I don't know. And what kind of trunk should I wear to swim in? What should I do for this triathlon training? I don't know.
Not my thing.
Not my thing. I don't know. I'm trying to learn, right? So I'm asking the basic questions. Now I'm in question boxes of other creators who are in that world, asking the most basic questions possible.
Yeah.
Of like, hey, why would I even have this in my shoe? And it's the same thing of someone coming into your question box in your story and saying like, hey, what's the difference between this bar and this bar?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, and I think if you're more of like if you're specialized in a certain area, or you've just spent your entire adult life in a certain situation, it's very easy. And I think this is what we're seeing on the internet and social media with like, it seems like people are annoyed. People are asking questions. They're like, oh, you don't freaking know? What an idiot. Like, this bar is this bar is this. Like, how do you not know that? And it's like, dude, have you spent any of your time in a place where you don't know anything? Because, dude, you'd benefit greatly from that.
Yeah. Amen to that.
So I think, again, it's made me such a better human.
Yes.
I could say the same for travel. I've traveled a lot and been in places that like my wife and I are about to go to Japan. I don't speak Japanese. I have no idea what, it's just like, you're just going to be put in a very uncomfortable situation. You're going to have to navigate that. You're going to have to adapt. You're not going to know very basic things, and it's going to be very humbling. But you learn that you start to learn, and you learn that the longer you spend around the thing, you start to pick things up. And I think that translates into every part of life. And even if you're not a coach or a personal trainer and you're listening to this, that's going to happen for you within this lifting thing. That's going to happen for you within this exercise thing. You're going to find your way. You're going to figure out what's going to work for you. You're going to find out what feels good, what doesn't, what areas that you need to pursue maybe a little bit more, areas you need to ask questions about, and don't be uncomfortable to ask questions. And having someone like yourself, I think tonal is a beautiful thing. I have one in my garage. I've done a couple of your workouts. And when I got it, I was like, well, I know Joe. I know, I follow him. I know I'm just going to do his workouts. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's insane where we've gotten in terms of exercise. And I think it's so cool that you can have this little TV on your wall that also lets you do strength training with. And it works the way it does. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think it's beautiful. And I think it's amazing that we have such access to this information at scale, and that people that might be uncomfortable to step into a gym, which is a very, I listened to Kyle Dobbs' episode. I like Kyle one, but I listened to his episode just kind of get a feel for the podcast. And, as he was saying, like, and I agree with, the gym is a very intimidating place to come into and be. And again, like, just like me stepping onto a trail for a trail run you can tell, here in Colorado, like, this is the mecca of endurance athletes out here. Like, most USA Olympic training centers of most sports are out here. If you go to Boulder and do a trail run, you're probably amidst the most professional runners in the United States. So you're around people that are just good at that thing and that do that thing professionally at an Olympic level. And I feel intimidated by that, and I'm a professional in the exercise world, but again, like, you're going to feel uncomfortable and you're going to be intimidated. But again, like, I think tonal is great because it does give you the comfort of your own home. It gives you the comfort of your own space, and it allows you to engage with something that really can be life altering and life changing, and really be the centering device in your life.
Yeah.
To live the way you want to live and to feel the way you want to feel, and to reduce the risk of disease and everything that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, man. It's a great, I was thinking about this. I'm always thinking about this, like how we're addressing these objections within, general population. Cause I'm always segmenting and thinking about different groups of people now. Cause people like you and me love the gym. I'm like, I'll lift a rusty old dumbbell, like, in a garage. Like, I'll do this forever. Like, I'm fine. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing this shit. But I do think about my brother. I think about, my family, my cousins, people that have not been in this space, people that have not been in sport, that want to be healthy. Just this weekend, man, I was actually with a couple of pro gamers, right? Like, a totally different world that I've never been a part of. And they invited me out because they have a couple tonals. And I was talking to them and their wives, and they were talking about how this space always felt very closed off, because culturally, before this technology, you would have the gym and there is a culture around it. And if you like the culture, it's obviously great. It can be fun. Like I do. It's a fun place to be. But from the outside looking in, it is intimidating. And maybe you want to lift and not be in that culture. And so it felt like we were creating barriers. And something like tonal now with this technology, think about how it just opens this up to anybody. You don't have to be in the gym. You don't have to live that lifestyle of what gym culture has been. It could just be something. And this is where I think the future of this is really exciting, where this becomes so common that we're just weightlifting because we know it is healthy for us for longevity. And it doesn't have to be your whole identity. It doesn't have to be your entire day. It can just be efficient, and we can, like, pursue these other things that you're talking about, these other interests. And talk about a coaching tool too, Austin. I'm like,
that's awesome.
I'm like, to be there where when I'm working with someone one-on-one, you're working with someone one-on-one, you see them for an hour, and you get that time with them, and it could be a really impactful hour, but it's still only 1 hour. And so am I going to see that person 4 or 5 times a week? Are our schedules going to line up?
Yeah.
Are you still going to pay to see me for a year? Are you going to do that for 5? Am I going to program for you?
Yeah.
Am I going to correct your form on every single movement, every single rep? But now to have that and be like, well, this is what you should feel. This is the pacing. Here's set number 2 compared to 3. To do, show, tell, all of that. It's awesome, man. It's what it's all about.
Yeah, man. It's really, really cool. And I really appreciate the way you guys go about it. And again, like doing a couple of your workouts so far, it got delivered in the middle of the winter out here. So it's in my garage and I'm like, it's too cold in there. I'm not going in there because I have a home gym literally in the next room. And I'm like, I'll just lift in there. The tonal's for the warmer months for me.
Okay.
And again, like barriers, right? We talk about barriers. We all have a different barrier. And likely if I didn't have the home gym right next to it, I would use it in the winter, but there's a more comfortable place for me to be there. But
comfort,
again, like it's really, really cool to see that and to be in that and to be someone that's again spent my life lifting weights since I was, very, very young. And I've been in many gym settings around the world, many different contexts. And it's really cool to see that sort of technology be able to really penetrate and access people's homes like that, and create an affordable way of having a home gym to engage with this type of exercise. It's a really beautiful thing. And your guys' ability to communicate through those workouts and through that platform, right? Because you get the in-between sets, you get the rest period to kind of like, hey, this is what we should be feeling. Hey, this is when this is going to come up in life. We're going to get through, and you're getting that coaching, right? And that's what you're getting a taste of what we do as trainers within our training sessions, right? Like you're able to start connecting with people on a deeper level beyond the sets and the reps.
Yes.
And, I think that's one of the most beautiful things about in-person training for me is, and still seeing clients every week. It's, I get to know them. I get to know, the fact that they have, 2 kids that are 5 and 3 and, oh, we had a birthday this weekend. We went to this, we did this, they rode horses, and we get to talk about that. And I get to learn more about you. We get to have deeper conversations. We get to talk about, like what kind of man you've become after you've had kids. And maybe if I have kids, like what can I look forward to there? And what's been the most challenging part for you? And it's like, we get beyond the sets and the reps. Like, of course we're working hard, but there's more to be had there when you engage with that type of thing. And you start to really correlate. I think a beautiful thing is you start to really correlate a lot more positive things with that workout than just the workout itself, right? So when someone logs into their account and turns that tonal on in their home or any device really, but when they engage with that thing, they know who they know they're getting you. They know they're getting another one of the instructors there that they get to kind of tune in and hang out with them for 15, 30, 45, 60 minutes, whatever the workout is. And again, man, I think, I don't have to tell you that, but I think it is a really beautiful thing just from an outsider's perspective who's spent a lot of time in this space. I think it's a really cool thing that I'm eager to watch continue to sort of, again, penetrate the space and be there for people long term.
Yeah.
Because it's just more people need to exercise. The statistics around that are just abysmal at this point.
Yeah, man.
And 80% of people aren't hitting those recommended guidelines. And I think it's really easy to throw shade and throw blame at guidelines. But at the end of the day, we got to hit those guidelines to be able to actually validate throwing shade at them. So I think the barrier of entry thing is always an important thing that I come back to. And, for me and my content, what I do really, as I've evolved as a trainer and as a human and just as a person who's trying to be there as a helping hand and kind of give myself purpose is, again, like, can I increase someone's confidence and competence in the gym? Right. I'm not an instructor. I'm not in these devices, but, I do work in the gym space and have my entire adult life. And what can I do? How can I do my part in helping you become more confident and competent? in this space. So when you walk in, you have fewer questions at least, and you know how things should feel, how they should maybe look. Um, if you have a certain thing, maybe you can add a variation to that. But again, when it comes down to it, like I want to just make people more confident and competent in that space. So everything that I do now really does come back to that.
I love that, Austin. I think that's the biggest thing we can do.
Yeah.
Like the strategies, the sets and reps, like we'll figure it out. We'll get there.
Dude, just do the thing. And that's weird. I know we were talking about before we started recording, but it's like I've learned that there's, and I've written this on social media, but and talked about this sort of ad nauseum, but it's like for some reason we're spending more time demonizing and picking apart effective ways of exercising because maybe our confirmation bias doesn't agree, or we don't have experience with it, or it makes us uncomfortable that we don't have as much knowledge in it, or whatever it is, or maybe there are some downsides to it. But the fact that we're demonizing effective ways to move your body just because we don't know enough about it, or maybe there are a few downsides to it, but there's a lot more upsides. Like the fact that we're spending that much time arguing rather than actually like bolstering the reality that the fact that like all of these work well,
right?
As long as you're putting in effort, you're engaging with it. Like the fact that there's content around like not only exercises being crap, but oh, you shouldn't go run because running's going to kill this. Or it's going to, it's like, dude, you should go walk, you should go run, you should go do yoga, you should go lift, you should go to the park. Like you should go do all of it. And you're going to figure out what you enjoy most. And then you're going to figure out how to actually stick to that, because you're going to get that you're going to have this reciprocal relationship with it. As you engage with it, it's going to engage back with you in a similar way, right? It's sort of this push and pull that we have with these things that we put into, right? It's this transfer of energy that we have with this thing that we're engaging with, right? It's the same with people. It's the same with the exercise we're doing. It's the same with anything that we're pursuing. What you put into it's what you're going to get out of it. And I think the beautiful thing is everyone gets what they need from it. And a lot of what we get from it is stuff we didn't realize we needed from it. And so at the end of the day, just go pursue the thing. If you have an itch, as I've gotten, again, yoga's entered the frame, running's entered the frame, swimming's entered the frame. Again, I've spent time as a professional bodybuilder, but I'm going to tell you right now, it's like my workout yesterday was I had 30 minutes. So I did 2 variations of split squats and some calf raises. That was my leg day yesterday. That's it. But I woke up this morning. I did an hour on the stationary bike, and then I'll try, once my foot heals, I'll get back out to running. We're going to swim this weekend. We're likely going to do a trail run, hopefully get a yoga session in. And it's like, that is my life now. And I don't know the last time, like since I started this like transition with my own fitness, I don't know the last time that I truthfully had that thought in my mind when I'm working out of like, man, this doesn't seem optimal for my muscle growth. It's like, okay, great. That's fine. But you're at least maintaining it. What this week you may maintain, right? So my workout yesterday, that was a maintenance workout.
Yep.
I hit 4 to 6 sets on my quads, my glutes, hit some, 4 to 6 sets on my calves. That's going to, if I don't do anything else this week for those muscle groups, that's going to easily maintain those tissues, the strength levels, the muscle size, everything's going to be maintained there. And we're about to travel for a couple weeks, go to a different country. I'm not going to lift very much when I'm there, but I'm going to walk a ton. I may get some body weight stuff in. We may go for a run. Great. All that's going to be a maintenance for when I get back. Once I have time again, I can re-engage with certain things, right? And some weeks, I kind of see this now as like some weeks are gaining weeks. Some weeks are maintenance weeks. And my goal essentially is to just not have a net loss week I at least want to hit a maintenance week on my cardiovascular health and my overall strength and my overall muscle. But I used to have so much pressure that every week had to be a gaining week.
Right.
And if it wasn't, I failed.
Right.
And that, I think, when we kind of go back to the beginning of the conversation with like, what are some of the things that were maybe unhelpful that you got from bodybuilding that have sort of stuck with you? That piece, I think, really stuck with me, that because in the world of bodybuilding, if you, every week's a gaining week, man. And if you're falling behind, you're falling behind. If you didn't have a gaining week, you're falling behind. Your physique is at a stalemate. You're plateauing, and you're not progressing. Someone's working harder than you. Have all this self-talk in your mind, right?
Yep.
And that is something that just no longer. And it took me a long time to figure this out, but that is no longer serving me. And I had to realize that, and I had to come to grips with the reality of having to get rid of it and just let it go. That's fine. Right. And maintenance weeks, and a lot of, like, most weeks at this point are maintenance weeks. You get busy, you're traveling, you're doing your thing, you have other goals, right? You're spending more time with your family at home, or you're trying to build build on a project at work or whatever you're doing. Again, a maintenance week, I'm still exercising, I'm still engaging with lifting, I'm still getting in some sessions, but again, I'm not training 10 plus times per week. I'm not doing sprints at midnight like I used to. That's not how my life looks anymore. And that's okay now. Like, that's totally cool, man. And honestly, I think I'm in the best shape I've been in a long time because I've been able to let that go. Because the barrier of entry to doing the thing is been removed. So, just to hop on the bike this morning and get 45 to 60 minutes of zone 2 in, I used to overthink that. I'm like, well, if I do zone 2 today, I gotta get this in tomorrow. Then I got to do this. And it's like, oh, I don't have time for that. Maybe I don't do that today. Maybe I do it tomorrow. And before I know it, the week's over and I did nothing. So just do the thing that's right in front of you. If Sunday afternoon, that's when you have time to go swim, whatever is the least optimal part of that, it doesn't matter. The reality is that you just go do the thing that's right in front of you. Go swim. If that's the best time for you to go swim, go swim. If that's the best time for you to get a run in, whether you hit legs yesterday or you have to hit them tomorrow, go run. Go do the thing. Engage with what's in front of you, and then adjust as you go, right? So maybe my leg day after my long run can't be quite as intense as I had in my head. Fine. Who cares? You're still going to get something from that. You're going to show up. You're going to build that consistency. You're going to build that habit. Even if it's just that, that's great. But with how stress and adaptation works, like, you're going to keep adapting. The more you stress your system within the confines of your ability to recover from that, you're going to continue to adapt. Right. And I think that was the biggest thing as I got more into maybe this more what we categorize as hybrid training now, and I'm very, very much a beginner in that hybrid training world, but it's really come down to take the pressure off, just engage with what's in front of you, just do the thing that's next. If you need to get a couple runs in this week, those may be back-to-back days, those may be spread out. Your swim may be in the middle of that. You may have a session or two in between that, even though it wasn't optimal for you.
Right.
Totally fine. And as you go, you're going to find a rhythm with it. As you go, you're going to learn, oh, that's all good, but maybe these two things don't go together well. So I'll just be sure, instead of having all of these criteria, now I just have that one of, like, I know that I don't feel well, I don't sleep well if I do this, this, and this, all tightly wound up into 3 days. So maybe I do have that one criteria of, okay, I spread that out.
Yeah.
So again, as you engage with the thing, you start to build context around the rules that you need, rather than the rules that you may be reading on the internet that other people have created for themselves based off their body, based off their individual training needs. And again, you only know that as you engage with that thing. So I think that's a very important.
Big point. Big point. It's like doing what you think you're supposed to do versus like what works for you, what is fitting in your life. This is a massive thing. I know that it's I know I get where it comes from, man. Like I know that people just want the answer. It's
Yeah.
like people just want you to package it up and just be like, tell me what to do this. And I'm like, I get that. And like we can give guidance and things like that, but there's got to be a long-term perspective, because if we're really doing this right, are we not going to be doing this for the rest of our lives? Like if we agree that this is health, if we agree that this is longevity, if we agree if this is like preventative, and so that I can move with my kids, all that good stuff, right? Then we have to create a healthy relationship to this. And what you're talking about is a healthy approach to how to view training, because I've seen it go the other way, where we take it way too seriously and people use it as a method of avoidance. They don't allow themselves to evolve. They don't address their problems. They obsess over this stuff. They take it too seriously. You injure yourself. I'm like, I've seen the opposite road, dude. And
I've
it's
lived
not
in the
pretty.
opposite road. Yeah.
I've had my moments.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've left family functions to go to the track and run stadiums or sprints or go get my second lift in for the day because I was sitting around my family or around friends. But in my head, I'm like, I got to be doing something. I'm not doing something. This isn't productive. This isn't, I got to be going. Okay, I'm going to leave. Hey guys, I'm going to head out. And they think I'm going somewhere else that I have to go to. I'm not going anywhere I need to be. I'm going to the track because I'm comfortable there, because it helps me avoid whatever I haven't dealt with in my mind yet. And so I've lived in that world, and I've had those habits. And again, it's been a long road of trying to navigate that. But as you said, the more mature I've gotten, the more I've allowed myself to see these things happen in my life, the more I've been able to actually learn how to create the balance that I need, right? Rather than sitting around and waiting to find something that I can't find, right? And balance for us all is created, right? Work-life balance, fitness, life balance. Once we realize that all these things are just life and they all live on the same continuum, and you're going to have to figure out how to navigate all of these things everywhere all at once forever, the more, and as overwhelming as that can feel and sound, that's the reality. There's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be a time where it's like, well, this is the fitness chapter, or this is especially the fitness chapter. Like you can have, I think we kind of get this mixed up a little bit where it's like, you can, in business, like you can work yourself into an early grave to sell a company for boatloads of money and then not have to work again. Right. That's something that does not translate to fitness.
Yeah.
What I did in my early 20s does not impact my health in my 30s. Like if I just did all that I did in professional bodybuilding and built that physique that I had, whatever, sure, I built a strong foundation of bone health and certain muscular health. But if I didn't do anything from 25 to 31, that's like all of that progress, everything I worked for is gone. It does not translate. I don't get to just sell out and, sell my fitness company, my personal fitness gain for a boatload of money and not have to show up anymore.
Yeah.
Like, I think that too is something I always connected to, of no matter how much money you have, no matter what you look like, how you were born, whatever, fitness is something you have to engage with. Everyone does at all stages of life. Right. And you can't pay someone else to do this for you. You have to learn how to engage with it. And it's uncomfortable. Right. And it's more uncomfortable for some of us than it is others. Right. And for me, that discomfort came more in terms of intellectual pursuits or academic pursuits, more so than it did physical pursuits. But I do understand that there are people that's flipped.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And, or social things. Like I'm more uncomfortable in social situations, but you put a ball in my hand, or you tell me to go run, or you tell me to go do something physical. Oh, great. I'm great here. This is my bread and butter. I'm right at home. But if you ask me to do something academic or intellectual or social, it's okay. I mean, I'm going to breathe through this. I'll work through it. I'll try. I'll get better at it. right? And I understand that now, that is what some people feel when asked to do physical things.
Mm-hmm.
So again, like the more that we as professionals can lower that barrier of entry and not argue about stupid stuff on the internet, that ends up confusing people more and getting them further and further away from actually pursuing the thing
Right.
that we tell ourselves that we want them to do, but do we actually? If we did, I think our actions would be different. So in an essence, show up for those who need your help. Focus more, this is kind of my personal mantra, is like focus more on being helpful than being right. And I think the internet right now in the fitness space in a large way is more focused on being right than being helpful. And we're spending more time arguing with ourselves for what? I don't know. And unfortunately, we are prioritizing algorithms over people. And we're posting more and more content that is controversial. We're posting more and more content that tears other creators down. We're posting more and more content that demonizes things that other people may find helpful. And the end product of that is that the user is, or the people that we're actually trying to reach is more confused than ever. And
Mm-hmm.
they're probably further away than ever from trying it and engaging with it. And I think we're moving in the wrong direction there. And I think we need to really get back to really thinking about who are these people that need help? Who are these people that fall into that 80% of people in this country, especially, that aren't even hitting a minimum threshold of movement per day, right? Or don't have any fundamental education on any part of physical movement or nutrition or how to engage with that part of their body in that part of their life. And so I think my own personal pursuit forward in this part of my career is really just trying to lead by example, try to lead from the front there the best I can. And especially to younger trainers, if there are younger trainers listening to this, understand that there's a different way. You don't have to focus on tearing other people down for your own gain. And as I always say, like, belittlement is not education. Or understand that if you want to help people, then help them. And that doesn't have to go through tearing others down. That doesn't have to go through making fun of other people. It just starts with you doing the thing that's going to help the person right in front of you. And think about someone in your life if you need help with that. Like, one thing that's helped me a lot is, I think about my in-person clients that I train. So I get to see them in real life.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not imagining their problems. I get to hear them every week. So start to solve those problems for people who are just like that. Or talk to someone in your family. What do they struggle with? There's someone in your family that struggles with something.
Yeah.
When it comes to fitness, then figure out how to solve that problem, and then maybe go with that, post that, right? Rather than, again, tearing down other people for the sake of your own gain. I can't get on board with it, man.
No, it's a tough space we're in, man. This isn't just an industry problem for fitness. This is a cultural problem that you're seeing across the board. I really see it as such, man. It is unfortunate. It's like, on one hand, I understand, because we are, especially for younger kids growing up today, I think it's a real challenge, man, if you grew up in social media and seeing these examples, because we're rewarding and incentivizing attention and creating triggers and engagement and fame. So, like, you as a trainer, it's more how big I can get on my platform versus how much I can be in service. How much value can I create? And I get that it's a tough thing, because if we're incentivizing it, I understand the pull. We're rewarding it culturally. I get it. But I'm like, if we're really doing this, I always go back to, like, this is a service industry. Like, I got into this because I was in healthcare, and that was all kinds of messed up. So I was coming here and I was like, yeah, don't even get me started. So I was like, let's be preventative. And I wanted to get ahead of this stuff. And you think, if we're really doing this appropriately, shouldn't we be, to your point, solving these people their problems? I always had this dream that trainers should be held in the same regard as some of the best doctors in the world. Because if we're really doing this, we're providing preventative care. You're establishing habits for these people to develop the confidence, to develop the strength, the longevity. So I guess it comes down to maybe just a question that you got to ask yourself of like, what legacy do you want to leave? And I don't know, man. I think Jackie Robinson had this quote that was like, you know, a man's success should be valued by the impact of the lives that it has on other people.
Yeah.
And I refer to that often. Like with every post, are you helping yourself with this, or are you helping someone that's watching this?
Yeah. No, it's beautiful, man. I think I think quotes really, I've always attached myself to quotes and things that can kind of be easily pulled out, that are pithy and that are very easy to remember. And I like jumping off points. And I think quotes are one of those things that, you know, music, smells, things that can kind of take you back to a certain time in your life. I think quotes are one of those things that within the word realm that can really sort of also do that. And they can kind of bring you back to a center of, oh, okay, yeah, that's exactly what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
Very, very quickly, right? It's, you know, 8 words can really just recenter your entire day, your entire week, your entire month, your entire year. And again, like, we need constant reminders of it because the world is very chaotic. It's very distracting. The incentives seem very weird, as you've mentioned, and we are rewarded at a very grand scale to do things that, again, really only seem at least intentional to serve ourselves. And, you know, fortunately, there are some byproducts of that other people do gain some value in. Like, I think that's a positive. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think there's more harm being done from a perspective of the way that we're talking to each other, the way that we speak about each other, the way we actually communicate. You know, it's funny because it's, you know, I've noticed it, you know, my wife and I always talk about this, but we notice it in our own lives with people that we interact with. It feels more like certain conversations feel more like you just had the conversation in a Facebook comment section than you did in real life, where you're like, why are you talking to me like this? Like, this isn't fit. Like, people are truly, like, my wife and I, again, like, we experience this, and I don't know if you do, but it's some people like will talk to you as if you are just this bot on Facebook that they're just arguing with endlessly that they've never met. It's like, dude, I'm right in front of you. You know me. I'm a human being. Let's not talk to each other like this. This is insane.
Yeah.
It's like, I get that you talk to people like this on the internet. I don't think you should, but I get that you do. But this isn't it.
You know, it's too controversial, dude. I'm like, so we're literally at this point of trying to be right versus just seeking understanding.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I see it. Cause I'm like, I don't know, man. Maybe we grew up different, dude. I don't know. We probably did because of like without the internet to an extent. But even in my sales days, I remember a mentor telling me, he's like, you come into sales and you think that you're supposed to just like talk all the time, right? That's what a salesperson does. You come in and you give a big pitch. But he's like, I've never seen somebody sell a product because they talked a really good game and they had a really great presentation. I'm like, you should be listening 90% of the time and asking questions that entire time. You should be talking 10, and that 10% should be questions. You should be learning. I'm like, there's something to be learned from that. And to your point from travel, dude, this is a massive message, because like when it comes to just training, I've always tied it to human development. And when you talk about like travel and you talk about how you can expand your mind and going to therapy and meditating, I'm like, this is a gateway to do all that so that you can understand how this is so much bigger than one thing. Like, this is about becoming a better person, more empathetic, listening, understanding, learn from that person, maybe learn what not to do from that person, right? But be healthy about it, be kind about it. It's true what they say that everybody's going through some stuff, man. And I'm like, if we can just learn that and try to improve other people, I think we would all just be better for it.
Amen.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey.
I think that's a great spot. That's a great spot. And I couldn't agree more with it, man. I mean, again, like I think I could tangent all day, but um, I'll let you continue to steer the conversation.
Let me give you kind of to kind of close.
Yeah.
I want to dive into this a little bit more of a practical example because it's tied to what we're talking about. But you talk about like this fitness style approach.
Yeah.
And this would probably be like a good one to leave people with. Because now if we're talking about training itself and we're talking about longevity, to your point, I kind of believe in seasons, right? Like when you're young, I'm like, I was gung ho and I'm like, so great. If you're in the season, crank up the dial, like go crazy, go ham. I think there's benefit to that. If you're in sport, go nuts, man. Train twice a day. If you're loving it, right? If you're really enjoying it, go after it. But then seasonality happens, and maybe we need to think about it as in season, off season. Body needs some rest too. But then also there's evolution of like, I have a family now. My commitments change. My priorities change. My interests change. So maybe I'm trying to pursue a business now. Maybe I want to learn some other skills. I want to like learn an instrument. I want to go travel. Just different interests apply now. So I've seen it as, maybe we dial things down. To your point, maybe we're in maintenance now. And so psychologically, can I let go of guilt? And then can I turn this back on? But I'm curious where this comes from, right? Like your advice of a fitness dial versus like an on-off switch. I think you were talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I believe I may have heard this. I don't know if it was Eric Helms back in the day, or it was someone like that. I don't know if I heard it in a presentation. I don't really know exactly where I heard it originally. I know that one thing I got from Eric Helms that I know is from him was like this concept of focus on the big rocks first, and then focus on the sand that fills in the gaps. And like kind of this analogy of these, if your goal was to fill a space with the most effective components that you have in front of you, you'd likely start with the big rocks first, right? You'd fill that cup up, or you'd fill that cylinder up with the big things first, and then you'd fill in the gaps with the small things, right? And I loved that analogy so much, and I think that kind of build upon that. I think that's kind of where this dial analogy adds on to that, where in terms of this adherence problem that we all have to things, right? It's we typically have more of an issue with the adherence part, right? And the consistency part. I'm sure you hear that a lot. It's something I hear a ton as, in my work and from people that I work with or talk to on a daily basis, which is, yeah, no, I know that. I realize that. I know this is true, but I can't stick with it. I have an adherence issue. And I think for me, it really always comes back to this reality that we see things as this black and white thing, this on and off switch of I'm either all in or I'm all out. And no matter what part of life you're in, this goes to the personal, the intimate, the social, the professional. There's probably not one area of your life that benefits from something being all in or all out, right? It's just like you're either you're too much, or you're not doing enough. You can't find a balance to it. And I think for me, everything again comes back to like, how can I put this in a better perspective for myself? I think visuals help me out. Again, quotes help me. Things that are very easy to attach to look at once and to be like, oh, yep, it's sort of this recentering device that I can use to keep tabs on the decisions I'm making day to day or week by week, yearly, whatever. And this concept of this dial really does help. We think about, we have all these things in our lives that we don't think much about probably, which is like, you have your thermostat in your house that works very similarly. When something gets too low, it kicks on, it kicks it back up to where it needs to be. And the goal of that is to essentially have a maintenance of temperature in your home, right? That all works off sort of its own dial, which again compounded. I was like, okay, that's how that works. And then it kind of compounded into this idea of seeing everything as this dial, right? And you can look at it as globally or as specifically as you'd like. And, you know, if we're talking about training specifically, right? If we want to grow muscle, we need to turn the volume dial up. If we're talking about strength, we may need to turn the volume dial down and turn up the intensity dial.
Mm-hmm.
If we're thinking about running further, we need to turn down the volume dial on lifting, some of the intensity dial on lifting, potentially, depending on how much you're doing, and turn up the dial on the amount of just mileage you're getting in with running.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the pace of that running, the intensity of that running doesn't have to be super high. You know, it just needs to be on enough to be sure that you're able to productively do those miles. But if you, again, to the same vein, if you want to get faster, if you want to be faster at sprinting, then you need to turn that sprint dial up. You need to turn that speed intensity dial up, and you need to turn that volume dial down.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so everything kind of can work off this dial. And again, if you want to get better relationships, you need to turn that dial up. If you want to improve your professional life, you need to focus, you know, you need to create some projects, create some goals, turn the dial up on that. Right. So everything kind of has its own individual dial that, again, as we kind of go through this seasonality of life, rather than thinking like, oh, I'm busy right now. I'm just like, my fitness switch is off. I'm just not doing fitness right now. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, the way the human body works, the way physiology works, we are still in a very biologically driven world.
Yeah.
As much as we've convinced ourselves we're not.
Yeah.
We are the same people that we were thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago, when all this stuff was not around, right? And we still have to adapt to the same problems from a physiological perspective, right? Energy availability, food availability. Are we in a position to procreate? Are we in a position to have good social relationships? Like, all these are fundamental realities of our biology and our physiology in the way that it functions and interacts with the world.
Yeah.
And we've layered a bunch of complexities and chaos and technology that we now interface with, a lot of complicated relationships that we have that aren't really in person, but they're online. And that's also weird. And like, again, I'm just bringing all that up to say there's a lot of chaos that's added onto that. There's a lot of confusion that's added onto that. And one thing that cannot be turned off for very long without seeing severe consequences to is fitness, is our engagement with fitness in some way, shape, or form. And again, like, depending on what phase of life you're in, that could be as easy as a step goal.
Right.
Like, okay, I get my 8,000 to 10,000 steps in. There may not be there may not be a magic to that, but there also may be, because in research, it does seem like we do hit that point of improvements in blood pressure and blood lipids and A1C and all of these blood glucose levels around that 7,000 to 10,000 step mark. So although it may have been a marketing ploy back in the day with the 10,000 step goal, there is some realities to that. So maybe we shouldn't discount that. And so, okay, having a step goal, it could be just as simple as that, right? And then I know as I age, my bones are going to start to dwindle down. I know I hit my peak bone mineral density in probably my early 20s. And as I hit my 30s, my 40s, my 50s, that's going to start to dwindle more and more and more. And the only way to reverse that is to engage with fitness, is to engage with exercise, is to engage with moving against resistance, whether that's gravity, whether that's load, whatever that is, right?
Yep.
And so seeing all of these things as a dial, I think is important as a concept and a perspective on how I approach my life. But in the reality of understanding, I think the most important dial and turning it from a switch to a dial is this fitness fitness dial. Because again, there's not going to be one part of your life from the time you're born to the time you die that there's any benefit to you turning that completely off. If you have a time where that would make sense, of course you could think of something maybe, but outside of extreme circumstances, even if you're dealing with certain things from a psychological perspective, emotional perspective, exercise re-engages and can recenter the HPA axis, the way our brain connects to the rest of our body and our organs. Like exercise innervates all of those things. It improves mental health, it improves depression, it improves anxiety. It helps not only treat those things, it helps avoid even coming into contact with those things, right? It improves our overall skeletal muscle health, which then improves our ability to manage glucose, our food, our energy. It allows us to be more resilient to stress, which then allows us to engage better with our work, our social relationships, all of it, right? It improves our ability to learn, to process information, to remember things, right? Our ability to engage with the outside world is all channeled through our ability to engage with this part of our life. And we have to keep the dial on to some degree, right? And there's going to be times, there's going to be seasons where you're going to turn that dial up. And I think if you have the time, if you have the capability to, I think if you have the interest to, you should lean into those seasons. You should really crank that thing up when you have the opportunity to.
Yeah,
absolutely, you should. Because I think, let's say I had that, and this is my reality. The past 3 months, I've had that thing cranked. I've been running, I've been swimming, I've been lifting, I've been doing all of these things. I've been getting in better and better shape. But last week, something came up. This week, kind of a down week with it. Next 2 weeks, we're going to be traveling. So I'm going to have about a month here where things aren't as cranked up. My dial is turned way down compared to where it was. But I've banked all this time. I've created this compounding interest of, okay, to put it in fine, the market's down slightly, but I spent 3 months with the market high, right? So it's like I've gained something here from just staying in it, right? The worst thing we can do is pull out because you're going to miss the biggest days of returns, right? So the worst thing we can do is turn off that switch. We have to keep that on to some degree. And so, although it's been cranked up for me recently, over the last 3 or 4 months, this month, the last 2 weeks plus the 2 weeks that are in front of me, it's going to be turned way, way down, but it's still going to be on. I'm still going to be thinking about it. I'm still going to be focused on it. If I have a choice between not moving and moving, I'm going to choose movement. If I have an option of, I could sit around all day, or I could go get my 8 to 10, 15, 20,000 steps in while we're in Japan, I know what I'm going to do. And I know that's going to translate into a better mood. It's going to translate into better sleep. It's going to translate into me feeling better, eating better food, all of the things, engaging with the world in a way that I want to, right? And all of that comes from having that dial on to some degree, whether it's cranked up or not.
It's very well said. And again, a very healthy approach. It's taken me a while to get there too, because there was a battle of guilt in the beginning, just to kind of go back to that point of always progressing and feeling that had to be the needle. And I did have to understand that maintenance and what that means and what that takes and what it requires, I thought was much more. Like, I thought if I took a week off, 2 weeks a month, that you're like, oh man, I'm going to erase so much. And when you realize, holy cow, the amount of maintenance that you need is so minuscule when you've put in this time, to your point, it takes a very long time. And maintenance it's like establishing a floor is how I see it now. Like these base level requirements. So to your point, it's never switching off. It's just dialing back and saying, here's my minimum standard, right? Or if I'm in a hotel, if I'm traveling, to continue with movement and to feel good. It's really like a feeling to me even at this point. Like I just want to feel good. It can be as simple as that walk, and maybe tying in some habits that really work for your life. This is something that has been new for me of getting married, having the house, working on your career. And I was like, how can I spend more time? And we just got a dog, man. We just got a German Shepherd like 2 years ago. And I love this dog. And so I was like, what can I do in my routine that would allow me to still move and be active and spend more time with her? with my wife and my dog, like doing some stuff. So we came up with just rucking, man, just walking around the park. I ain't going crazy. We ain't doing hill sprints. You know, we're just taking a 2-3 mile walk with a little backpack on, having a great time. So yeah, it doesn't have to be intense all the time.
Yeah. No, it's finding the balance. It's creating the balance more so than anything. And I think I say that more now than find a balance. I think more often now I'm finding myself having that conversation with clients of creating your balance. Again, as we mentioned earlier, of all this stuff exists on a continuum together, and it's everywhere all at once, right? And it's something that at different seasons, you're going to be able to turn certain things up and down, right? If you've worked a lot early in your life, then you have a family, you're going to notice if you want to keep that family for a long time, you're going to have to dial back the working part probably a little bit, or, you know, just as an example. So there's always something that we can dial up or dial down. But understanding that, again, the more we can avoid this on and off switch, and the more we can think about things in a sense of a dial, it's at least been helpful for me. It's been helpful for clients. And it's something that I'm hoping that those who stuck around can take from this and apply at some point in their life.
Appreciate you, man. It's a good conversation, man. I really, a really good conversation. Where can people find you, Austin?
I hang out on Instagram more than I should. Austin Current. It's just my name. So if you type in Austin, usually as you're typing in Austin, I'm the bearded guy that comes up.
Yeah, it's a great beard, man.
Thanks, man. It's a yellow background on the image. So that's it. And then my book is The Science of Strength Training. You can find, it's got a yellow cover. It's on Amazon. It's like $10. If you're interested in this type of stuff, I designed it with a team of people, and I'm really, really proud of the way it came out. And it's really just kind of a visual encyclopedia to all this stuff that we've been talking about, but more about kind of the science of all of it, and putting that in more of a visual adult picture book more so than anything. And it's written for the people, more so than for my colleagues. And I think that was also an important distinction. Although younger trainers have really attached onto it, which has been really, really cool. A lot of people have messaged me that it's helped them study for their exams and like pass their certifications, which has been a very happy side effect of that, which has been really, really cool.
That's incredible.
But again, it was really written for the people who have been nervous about all of this and have been intimidated by the idea of it. And again, just kind of another piece to the puzzle of breaking down the barrier of entry, which again, at the end of the day, my main goal with all of this is to improve your confidence and your competence within the gym space. And if that's for you, then hopefully I can help, or things I've created can help.
That's it right there. Strongly encourage you guys to follow Austin. I really mean it, dude. There's not a ton of people that, there's like a handful that I feel like I follow and really grab onto like their content. And whenever you're posting something, I really do genuinely feel like I'm learning a great, healthy perspective, that it's like this balance of, I understand the training, I get the science, but also just like a practical application. So I can really put this into my life, man. It's really well done. So strongly encourage you guys to follow Austin. Dude, thank you for this.
Thanks for the conversation, man. It was really good. I'm sure it was way longer than you wanted it to be, but
I'm turning it into like a Jocko Willink podcast. Maybe next time we'll go for 4 hours.
There you go. Dude, I know I could talk. It's the funny part about, again, the more people who know me, it's like, I don't say much until I do. But if you get me in my element, here we go. So I appreciate you creating a comfortable space to chat and kind of lofting some softballs up there and just being down to have a conversation. So
dude, I'm always down for this, man. You're my kind of people. I really mean that, dude. I'm kind of the same way. We're probably both introverts in this way, dude. So
yeah. I'm excited to, I'm sure we'll chat after we hop off, but I'm excited to come to, I've never been to the city. I've never been to New York City. So
kidding me, man.
No, I've never been. So it's definitely high on my priority list over the next year to do that. And so, I have a series of people that I need to come see in New York. So I definitely, hopefully you'll hopefully you'll be around when I'm there, and I'll be sure to reach out when I am.
Yeah, we'll have you into the Tonal studio, dude.
Oh,
Yeah,
let's do it.
Let's throw some weights around on set.
Let's do it, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
let's schedule that.
That'd be dope.
It'll give me an excuse to come.
All right, we'll get it going.
All right.
Thanks, guys.